Hello, everybody. Welcome to E.V.E, Electric Vision Entertainment. I am your host, as usual, Aleia. And if this, once again, is your first time here, I am a roboticist, scientist, tech nerd, all of the things. And I'm here to teach different things about technology, to share my ideas in the realm of science and technology and math, as well as just kind of, make the world of STEM a little more fun, a little more digestible. I think a lot in the world that tech is seen as this big, overarching, crazy thing with heavy numbers and big data and long paragraphs of crazy things, but it's really not like that. And so I want to showcase that on my show is, how to get into tech, different things to get you started, things to make you interested in looking more into it yourself. And if you have been here before, welcome back. We're going to do another different thing this week. Last week we talked about time and space, real big, high concept things, and we're trying to make it more digestible. We looked at a few kind of infographic type things that someone coded together. But this week, rather than focusing, on the code, on the science, we're going to talk a little more about portfolio building, because when you're going into tech, no matter how much you have to let other people know that. And that's really anything in life. You have to put yourself out there. The difference is in tech that, unlike an art portfolio where you can just print out your art and give it to people, or if you're writing a book, you print out your manuscripts for people to read. It's a little harder in tech, and the reason being is because, say that you're a programmer, you can't usually just print your code out and give it to someone and expect them to be able to read it and understand it. Similarly, if you have a web application or something that's really cool, like algorithm you made that run, you have to be able to have a good set of instructions for how to use it and put it in such a way that really anybody can use it, because ultimately you want to show other people. And say for instance you were applying for a job, a lot of times people interviewing for jobs aren't people who actually are in tech. They're HR people, managers. They're not going to understand a lot of the high concept things you may be talking about. And so having that portfolio out there and present it in a way for anyone to be able to read it, understand it, use it if it has a use behind it as well, it's really important. So we're going to go over that a little today. I'm going to start off by talking about my portfolios. We're going to go through like the ones that I have set up, in different platforms, give some pros and cons of the different platforms, and talk about why it's important in design and things like that. So we're going to start off. I'm going to share my screen, and once I do, you'll be able to see one of my resumes. So this resume it's a bit old, it's a bit dated. I probably made this 2016-ish. And let me scoot. Ooh. Google, you are something else. So I said this resume is a bit older. You'll see some of my like info on here and such, but this doesn't really, like, looking through this, it's kind of bland. It doesn't really go too in depth about the different things I did. nor does it, there's so much white space around that is, it just seems like it's lacking flavor, you know. Um, so if I were like a hiring manager and I saw something like this, it's like, on the upside, it's not really crowded, but it doesn't really say who I am. Ultimately, when you want to make a portfolio or even a resume, you want it to showcase who you are, not just the things you've done. We don't want to just have someone like giving out like just here's a stack of note cards about who I am. You have to present yourself because ultimately they want you as a person, not just the things you know. So I'm gonna go, to Google because Google is our friend, and ask Google, why is it important to make a portfolio? And of course, you can come here. There's plenty of what do we have here? 487 million results. Very quick results, mind you. So there's plenty of reasons out there why you should make a resume or make a portfolio from Career Center, the Muse, um, other universities. We're not going to go like search every single one, but let's say we go to Work It Daily, or we'll go to careercenter.edu because it seems a bit more straightforward. And they have a document going over the different reasons, professional portfolios, online portfolios, personal portfolios, all of these different things I'm going to show you myself. I kind of combine them because being in tech, of course, my portfolio will be online anyway. I have some that are a bit more professional, some that are a little more personal, some that are uh, censored more for coders, others through different mediums. So I'm gonna go through those and talk about some of the pros and cons about each of those rather than just purely hitting you with just straight like fact, fact, fact. I want to be able to actually show you in real time these different things and explain why I chose them over the other ways. So what I'm gonna start with is my Make School portfolio, which is here. So at Make School, ultimately it is a project-based school. We don't do like busy work type things. We aren't just, it's called Make School for a reason. We're here to make things. And if you make something, you have to be able to show off what you made. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there and collect dust. And no one's going to know you made it. It's not going to be of a benefit to you. It's not going to be of a benefit to anyone else. So they have this template that we utilize at Make School to create a portfolio, and it's very easy to use. So I have my image here, my name, a title that I just threw together, my other links to other sites that we're going to show, as well as like email contact. And then you can see some of the work that I've done. It usually suggests like 4, so I think I only have 2. I haven't updated this, mind you, in like a couple weeks, so it needs a little work. But for example, I have this project that I made called Project Impact, and I'll pull that up so you can look at it real quick because it's one of my favorite projects that I worked on. So I'll show it off just a little bit to get off topic. But we have Project Impact here, which is when I did like some data analysis on this NASA data set of like meteors because I'm very into space. Anyone who knows me or if you watch the show, I'm very into space and space technologies. So I did a project where I was trying to predict meteors, which is possible. I didn't quite get all the way there, but it's still something in the works. And then another project was the Central Rise, which was kind of a site to show a listing of a lot of Black-owned businesses. So one of them is more for my own questioning and research and to test my abilities, whereas the other one is more of a tool I want other people to use. Both of these are good to have on a portfolio because it shows a passion. It's showing that this is an area that I'm interested in and I'm willing to use my skills to practice over there and just make something really cool. Whereas the other one is more so, this is something I want other people to use and can actually be put out, like, share the link to people, and people can actually like benefit from something like that. So both of those type of projects are really good to have in your portfolio. Uh, and oh, cool. And if you look in the, I believe it's in the Twitch chat, may also be in the YouTube chat, there's a link there for, it should be in both. So for the Make School portfolio, this isn't exclusive just to Make School students. Anyone can make a portfolio on this website. So I highly recommend doing so. It's really like quick and easy to use. As well as, I may not have everything filled out on here, but you can put articles that you may have written, other projects that you have built, whether they're websites or coding projects. You go down here and talk about who you are and what your passion is. So rather than just saying, oh, I'm Aleia and I want to work at X company, or I have worked at this company for X amount of years and I want to work at this other company and these are the skills that I have. I instead made it more into, this is who I am. I'm a bookworm. I'm into literature and technology, and I try to use that to build relations with people, to talk about who I am, because the rest of your portfolio, and of course, there's like connection links in my resume down here, but the rest of my portfolio should be the one showcasing my skills, whereas the about you should be more about you at the end of the day. So before I go into some of the other portfolios that I've built, I'm going to show off this one project really quickly that I built. I'm glad that the background is working because it was being funky the other day. So this was Project Impact, and it was something that I did through my school. I mentioned in the last show how we do intensives, and this started at one of the intensives, the 1 week hackathon that we do for school. Just to test our skills, see how we've improved. So I know my first one was like, it was supposed to be like a calendar for tracking volunteers, the need of volunteers versus hosts and participants at hackathons. Looking back at it, it doesn't work at all. I like put a picture of a calendar on there because I couldn't figure out how to get a real calendar on there. And then a year later, I make a project like this. And so it shows that level of growth. Um, and just to go over this really quickly, I talk about my motivation for getting into this project, my journey of what was I aiming to do, what questions were I looking to answer, because this, as a data scientist, some of our projects can be a bit different than others. We're not just making websites for people to use all the time. Data scientists, we're more researchers. We want to know answers to something. And so we build our websites around making sure we can talk about how we got started and the process of what we did and our conclusions, and present it in such a way that it makes sense. So for example, I think my research is just a bunch of links. Or no, it's actual research that I took. I'm not gonna go into that, it's lengthy. But for instance, my conclusions and some of the data that I got. Visualization is very big in data science, and it's really big in your portfolio. Ultimately, that's why you make these different types of portfolios. You don't want it to just be just straight numbers, straight facts all the time. You want to make it visually appealing to people so they can easily digest it, be impressed with the things that they're looking at. And just as a whole, it's better for people to take in data visually than just try to dissect your own numbers. That's your job as the person creating the portfolios, to make these things digestible for others. So for example, if I scroll down to the bottom, say, we don't want to, no one's going to want to look through this and come through conclusions if they look at just a big table worth of data. Instead, they would rather see something like this, a chart, where it's like, oh, I can clearly see just from looking at this, there's more meteor showers, or at least according to the data, in August than in other months. And let's see, even That's a good one. We can look at the mass of these. Where did they land on the Earth, and how big were they? So you have a little sliding scale. Most people will immediately understand something like that. Green means smaller, red is bigger. You have the number scale there. Different, bigger circles of bigger meteor versus smaller circles, smaller meteor. Makes sense. And they're put across the map so people can see where they are. So like I said, you want to make things very visual for people to see and put in different resources. I use this one called Tableau for mine, and say that a coder comes onto this website rather than maybe an HR person, and they actually do want to see the code behind it to understand what's going on. Then I have links to see the actual code itself. And I try to, color it nice, do different formats so that it's easy to read. Well, if you understand the coding language, this is coded in Python, by the way, so that other coders can look through and say, okay, I see actually how she did these things. So I think you making sites like this is very good overall because it shows people I have the programming skills to put something like this together. I have an idea of art and design to make it visually appealing, and I understand how to get the things that I found and put it together in such a way that other people can understand it. So it kind of covers you as a whole. So, as a question, is a portfolio better than a GitHub? I think they build off each other. I think a portfolio is better for being used all around. Um, for example, I'll show you both my personal website, which I use as like my personal portfolio overarchingly, and I also show my GitHub. They're both beneficial in different ways, but if someone asks to see my portfolio or to see my work, I will give them my personal portfolio website, which will then link them to their GitHub. If someone asked me for that and I give them just my GitHub first, they may go to it and like, oh, well, she knows coding, but they may not be looking for my coding experience. They may be looking for something else. Um, so I think that So the good thing about GitHub that they've recently done is they know that people use it a little more for a portfolio. So they've integrated these cool little things where you can put like a picture here and a quick description. Um, but overall, it's pretty like codey. It's not too like visually appealing. These different features they have make a lot of sense to other people who utilize it. But for someone who's just coming into GitHub, here's all my repositories of the projects that I've worked on. But going through it's just a list of different things. And let's see one that has detail. So I click on this one, for instance. You have all my code here. You can see the different issues I've put of steps of things I want to work on, descriptions of the project, non-filled out readme. Let's see if I could go to today. I think this one's a little more detailed out. Yeah, so like a readme. And speaking of readmes, just as a quick note, if you do work on coding projects, readmes are extremely important. Even if you like download software, there's always that readme document that no one really ever seems to read. And I don't think I even myself understood the importance of them until I started coding, because I'll go back to a project and I was like, why was I doing this? Or what was I trying to do? And without the readme, I have no idea. I can go talk about what it is, where the project lives, which was at that other link, as well as how I built it, things like that. It's very helpful for when someone's coming into your project and they want to understand what you were doing, versus they just get here, there's nothing about what this is, and they just see tons of folders and files. there's no sense of direction. But it is good for sharing, and like organizing it really well is very good for giving to other engineers or other people in tech, because they, for one, kind of have a sense of what GitHub is and what it is used for, which is really just storing your data, or storing your projects on the cloud per se, rather than like on your computer. But to hiring managers, to your friends and your family who aren't gonna, maybe they're not in tech, come and not sure what's going on, this may not be the best way to showcase yourself, because yes, it shows me as data scientist, roboticist, and maker, but I'm not really showing that to them really. So instead, what I did was I created a personal website, which is this website. Here I can do whatever I want. I coded this in HTML and CSS, and I hosted it on GitHub. That may be a topic we'll get into a different day, is how to host your projects, because it's a whole thing. It's a very important thing though, because if you don't have a way to host it, then it's not going to be on the internet for people to look at. But the reason I did it this way is because I wanted to show who I am more than just show my work. So you come here, the first thing you see are like some of my favorite quotes about success. You see different backgrounds for space. Like this one here is the pillars of creation, which is a nebula way out in the further, it's way out there in space, but it is a real thing. I highly suggest looking into it because it's really cool. If you come here, you cycle through those, you automatically have this sense of she's interested in space. She has certain literature interests based off of the quotes that she has on this website. And as you scroll down, you can see the blogs I've written. So for example, I have a Medium page where I write blogs and do those, write blogs, put poetry, just have different brain explosions like I do on the show, but in text format. And rather than just always linking someone straight to that site, where yes, that's the hub for all of that, but that's all that's there. It's that one specific type of content. Just like GitHub, you go there, you'll see one specific type of concept or content for just coding. Versus here, I can put all of it together very, very visually. So you scroll down, you can see my more recent blogs. I have a quick button where you can click it and you can see the actual site itself. You want to make and the thing about making portfolios as well is you want to make this as easy for people to get through as possible, rather than say, here's the link to this, and they have to go open a new tab and type it in and memorize it if they ever want to come back. They just go to myname.com and then they can just, oh, I want to look at this one. Let me just click on this one, which the link is broken. The link is not broken. Yeah. So, take you straight to the article about linear regression rather than me having to give them this extremely long URL to find it. So simplicity is key. Just like a lot of things in life, keep it as simple as you can and go up from there. Just like we talked about with scoping out a project. Maybe it wasn't on the show yet, but it was something that is coming up soon. But working, yeah, it is. So, like I said before, the simplest and fastest way is to use a website that you can just input your data in a chart, or you can just put it in like a form type situation. So again, I recommend this if you're like a beginner and you're just trying to get something up and going really quickly. I highly recommend doing here. If you're, say, like super advanced, I would still use this one as well. So you have something there and functioning while per se you build something like this. I think this took me a month. a month or so, I think, to make something like this. So this is probably the best solution overall. And you can have that there. And then, of course, it'll be like for mid school. So you don't have to worry about hosting and things like that. You just like put in all the info and keep going. um, but if you were to make something custom, I would do something like this. And, you can go have like blog stuff. And these are all links to the blog. Same with the portfolio. And it's similar to the make school portfolio. It's kind of like the make school portfolio mixed with my GitHub. Because I wanted to show off the code, but I needed it to be visual, So these things that are here are the same things that are on my GitHub, but they're empty. They're the same things that are on my GitHub, but they aren't just, text like this. They have pictures with them. There's animation involved. You can kind of get a sneak peek at what you're going to get into before you actually click on it. And it'll lead you to the actual site itself rather than, say, if I clicked here, it just leads you to the code, which I think this is the code for this for this website. This is the code for this website. So there's that. I can say if I have services that I put out there, then I can put that on this site too for people to inquire about. Then I have an about section. And, back to the beginning, we were looking at that resume here. My about section is a combination of this resume. Well, not this resume. I have a better one now from 5 years ago. Definitely have improved a bit. Maybe I'll pull it up when we get to another section. So it's going to be a combination of this as well as my about section in here. So I wanted to put them both together because I do want to talk about, since it's my personal portfolio, you can do whatever you want. So I put, this is who I am. These are the things that I'm interested in. But if you continue to scroll down, you can start seeing, here's my experience. It's the resume, but laid out a little differently. So it's easier to digest this way. Say if you're, I should also put this show on my experience. I actually did think about the other day as I was updating, because I actually am working on updating this website. It's been like a week in the making of me trying to get everything back. I think the only updates I've finished thus far are the home, the blog, and the portfolio. So I'm like halfway there. And when the upcoming days, I plan to update the services to do like consultations for things, Say you want to talk to me directly. You're like, oh, maybe she knows something about making a portfolio. Maybe I should get a block of time with her and have her help me build my own resume. And sure, so I'll put that on there as a service. As well as my about section needs some work because I'm reformatting the site as well as, having more experience on here than just my professional experience, running this show, sharing the ideas that I have on here, as well as any other outreach that I try to do for Big School, for myself, things like that, as well as more skills. Yeah. And one of the benefits as well as the portfolio, as you've seen, I'm sure, from this site compared to a resume, resumes are good. I mean, because, have a portfolio, but also have a resume. Because if you're applying for a job, they're going to want a resume. They will ask you if you have a portfolio, and then you can link from there. But you have to have a resume too. But the thing about resumes, of course, just like with anything else, there's ups and downs. The downside to resume is 99% of the time you need to keep it to one page. it can be exceptions, but most people don't need 2 pages worth of information on their resume. And even if you do, then it gets to a point where someone who's reading it just like, oh, I'm reading an essay, I'm reading a book. And so it may not be to your benefit. So you want to stick to that 1 page and just like get it in, get it out, cut and dry, say what needs to be done, and call it a day. But when you have a portfolio, if someone goes to your portfolio page, for one, they kind of have the idea that they're going to be doing a little more browsing than just quick and dry reading. So you could put a lot more on here. You can do way more. I obviously on here, you know, I'm not going to go on my resume and write a list of every single blog that I've written. It'll be here all day. I'm not going to show every single if I go back to my repository, I'm not going to put all 75 of my repositories on a resume, things like that. So, but on here, I could do that if I want to, and even add like, it's not on here. Maybe one day put a search feature on here so someone can say, oh, I want to see her robotics stuff. Just type in robotics, go straight to those type of content. So it's very good for that, for just really putting everything you have out there rather than say only the important high-level professional things that you would see on a typical resume. And then lastly, I'm going to go over maybe not lastly, but I'm also going to touch on LinkedIn because I feel we're going to ignore all these notifications. I can't do anything about that. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is my LinkedIn. Everyone has different ideas on social media, and feel how you feel, because social media is something that's a whole conversation. But the reason I see LinkedIn is, one, to use kind of almost as a portfolio is because it's very good for networking with people. I call it it's like a living resume, if that makes sense. So for instance, I can put these weird things about who I am. I have my about section, which is still more or less the same as my portfolio about section. I have a different resume on here, which I don't know if it'll let me fully full screen that. Hopefully this is coming up okay. But I have this different resume versus that one I made like 5 years ago, where, it's a little more nice to look at, but at the end of the day, it's still like trying to cram everything on there, get all the experience and go into depth. So it makes it to where I have to be extremely selective about what goes on here because I want to keep it to 1 page. So exit out of there, but I can put that on there. Just like with my personal site, I can link it to my resume if I wish. Versus just here's my resume, good luck to you. You can also feature different things on here that are important, as well as you can put all of your experience, which is good. It connects you. That in those sections like that, it's more like the resume. But the important things that I find are your skills. So you could put that on, and other people who've worked with you can endorse those skills, as well as you can recommend and you can give and receive recommendations, as well as put different accomplishments you've done, projects you've worked on, publications that you've put out. And also, once again, the big thing about LinkedIn, as you'll see, I'm into very nerdy things here. The important thing about LinkedIn that really stands it out more than just putting your info on here as a resume is seeing other people. It's very quick and easy. If I wanted to find out more about Bill Gates, I can just say, like, let's find out about Bill Gates. And come here, I can say, well, this is who he is. These are the things, the experience he has, which is heavy experience, to say the least. The education he's received, the things he's interested in. And it kind of will build you to this almost, I'm thinking like neural network, but it it connects. It's how you connect to other people at the end of the day. Um, I can find even Make School, for instance. I can look at Make School on LinkedIn and say, here are other people who work at Make School. Here are students that have attended Make School. If I was interested in attending, this may be a way for me to say, let me find out from students at Make School about what their experience is and the things that they've made. Mind you, you can also find that on their website on makeschool.com. If you go there, I think everyone is listed anyway. Um, but if even, if I wanted to work at Microsoft and I was like, I wonder who works at Microsoft, then I could go to Microsoft and find out more about them, see what type of things they post about, so I can know if they have any contests going on, if they're doing any charities right now, see the type of people who work there and try to connect to them. Say I want to be a robotics engineer at Microsoft. I can find out other robotics engineers and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in finding out more about what you do on a day-to-day. So you can kind of get your foot in and get an idea of what it's like to be there before you actually be there, because company culture is important. It's something I don't think people talk enough about, even though the awareness is definitely getting higher. A lot of people want to work at a job just because they want to work at that job, and that's it. Not, they may, like for me, for instance, I really want to work at NASA because I'm a space nerd and it would be cool to work at NASA and build rocket ships and little wallies that go off in space. But I also want to know what it's like to work there. What are their labs like? What are their cafeterias like? What do people who work there also like to do and are interested in? And one way to do that is I can see who works there and ask them, rather than in the past where you just kind of have to hope and guess and find out when you get to work. So that's really the important thing about LinkedIn. It's also pretty easy to set up, but it's mostly for getting yourself out there, um, almost like branding yourself. I remember back in middle school, we'll go back to this portfolio here so that the link is also at the top. Once again, the link to this is in both the chats. But I remember back in middle school when we first started learning about the idea of like the job world at such a young age. Um, we had to make our very first resume. And I don't know what I even want to put on a resume in middle school, but we were talking about it. And I remember my teacher saying, you have to sell yourself. And ultimately, that's what making your portfolio is, regardless of what medium you use, is you're selling yourself. Unless you're super rich and famous, you're probably not going to have like a PR guy or a personal manager whose job it is to put who you are out there and get more people connected with you and things like that. You have to do those things for yourself. And by making that portfolio, it makes it very quick and easy where I can say, oh, I personally have business cards too to make it even easier, but I'll just put like my name and I'll put the link to my portfolio. I keep it short and sweet. So like my personal one, firstlastname.com. And like, here's the business card. And they can quickly go to it versus having a 3-hour conversation to tell someone who I am. They can already see ahead of time. And that helps even in the hiring process. When you put in your application, they look at your portfolio. They've already seen the things you're interested in. Of course, you can tailor it to if you want a specific company. Like if you're going into space like me, of course, I have space stuff everywhere on my portfolios. So they know immediately that I actually do care about that topic. Um, so it gives that really good sense of who you are. It gives a very quick way to show the things that you've done, that you've worked on, or that you are currently working on. Um, Rather than saying like, oh, I'm interested in tech, but my portfolio shows that I've never done anything in tech since like 2013 or something. And what that does is it sets you up for success when going into the actual interview. the people there will already have an idea. These are the things they know and don't know. These are the things they're interested in and not. This is the experience they have versus going back to a resume. Again, you can look at it, you can see all of my experience and the things that I've learned, but that doesn't really show you that I know how to use them. Anyone can put on their resume, oh, I know how to build a house. But until you go to my portfolio, you won't see the houses that I've built. You don't know how big or small they are, how nice they are inside, if I have a sense of design or if it's purely functional. So it's really the way to just put yourself out there in the world in once again, a more easily digestible way. Yes, so let's see if I have anything else that I want to put on top of this. I think I covered a lot. And there's a lot of ways to do it, different portfolios. Like I said, at the end of the day, ultimately, you're the one selling yourself. You're putting yourself in the world. You can create it however you want. You can, on your personal one, you can design it however you want. You can, on this, you can name yourself whatever you'd like. Or, well, you can give yourself a relevant title, whatever you'd like. You can even use other mediums. I know there are people who use like, Facebook pages and use that as a way to brand themselves, or Instagram accounts, or even here Twitch streams for you to follow. But there's all sorts of mediums out there. But the point of it is, regardless of what medium you're using, you're trying to show who you are to the best of your ability, and show that what you're interested in is actually something that can benefit others if that's your purpose of creating it, as well as just saying like, hey, I made this cool thing, why not take a look at it? And you never know what that could lead you in life. With just putting yourself out there, it could lead you to more resources, more connections, overall success, or even just general happiness at being able to share something you created out into the world and seeing how it's received. So, um, let's see. Otherwise, though, I don't want to get too much more in depth about portfolios because we could be here all day. We could make a portfolio. I don't think I have the I don't have the button to link me to it at the moment. But yes, at Make School, once you attend here, like I said, anyone can use this Make School portfolio website to make a portfolio, and host it there through us. However, if you attend Make School, you get a little extra benefit because we have a lot of courses for personal development, career development, um, just getting into the world of tech rather than just here's a class specifically on a coding language. You have certain track of classes that are more focused on here is how you put yourself out there in the world. Here's how you get a job. Here's how you create high level projects. And early on in those classes, you learn how to make a portfolio because ultimately at Make School or in general, you're going to be making things. And from the start, you want to be in a position where you can show off to other people these things that you've made, whether it's for an end goal or whether it's just to say, hey, look, I learned something. Here's what I made. So, very early on, I believe even early as probably our first term. It depends. First term, end of first term, or beginning. Um, is something that you're taught how to do is not just how to use the actual website, but also talk about what is a good project to put on your portfolio. Like I said, if you look at my repository, there's 75 things in there, and I picked these two. And so having those conversations of knowing what are high level projects to put and why, how to describe them in such a way that it can both be understood by people in tech and people outside of tech, helping you get these projects off the ground. So, like when I made the first Project Impact website here, originally this was just like a text document. And then I was like, but it needs to be set up a certain way. So, helping provide those resources for how to get it live on a website, how to set up a name for the link so that it set up a name for the link so that it's easily accessible for people rather than once again like some super long URL. It'll help you write. My articles aren't listed here, but some of the articles I've written have been directly a result of mixed school because I either learned something new and I want to talk about it, or I just want to just share knowledge with people. Ultimately, that's why I write articles. So even if I were to put that on here, then showcasing those, which and going back through like which are high quality ones of that as well. How many is too much and how many is too little. Even if I were to put high quality projects, I don't want to put 20 high level projects on like something like this, or want to narrow it down to the really key ones that focus towards, once again, quickly and easily having someone come here and having an immediate sense of this is what I like, even down to the level of how do people's eyes move when they look at a page, which, like, for example, I learned in one of my classes, it's called SPD, which is a kind of like a personal, it's not really a personal development class, it's kind of a personal development. It's called, the acronym stands for software product development. It's kind of a mix of, well, software product development as well as like career development and personal development. So I remember we learned even like people's eyes when they go to a website, they move in like a F shape. They start in like the upper left corner, they go across, and they go down in the upper left, and then they go across. But their eyes go less far across the further down they go. So they may start here and go all the way across the page till they get to the other side. But once they get down here in the bottom right, it may go over like this much. And you'll notice that a lot with articles when people read a lot of text. Usually, we've all done it, especially like when we Google anything and you go to a new site. We go on that site, we're looking for something most of the time. So you start at the top, you try to get a general sense of what you need, and as you go further down, you're like just skimming faster and faster. And that's why I designed my personal site with the important things on the left side. Because if new from that class, if I put it on the right side, people were less likely to focus on it than if I put it over here. So tips and tricks like that are, things that help make your portfolio stronger rather than just here's the link, throw stuff on, good luck to you. So it's highly beneficial classes like that. Um, and then also we, they show us how to do it, but they don't kind of just leave us hanging either. Um, for example, we have a lot of things actually when I really think about it. So alongside intensive, usually we have a like a career week kind of situation. And we do a lot of things during that week, from like having guests to doing workshops and such. But during that week, we may start off with a portfolio building session where, one of the professors or teachers will have a workshop on the portfolio and how to build it and showing off some of theirs and giving like extra tips and tricks. I know recently we did one and we were shown how to make like personalized logos for ourselves, which I'm really looking forward to. Um, and then towards the end of the week, we'll have like different review sessions. Like we, even from doing technical interviews and practicing that and getting feedback on how we did, like what things we need to improve on, what we did really well. We also do like portfolio reviews. So we can submit like a resume, our mixed school portfolio link. We have a personal portfolio link if they want to get that, our LinkedIn, and we can get feedback from that of, for instance, for my portfolio, I think my mixed school portfolio last time I got reviewed did not do that great, to be honest, because I only had 2 things here when really we should have like 4. And my articles aren't listed. as well as I think there's another section as well. So I'm missing a lot of stuff here. So I didn't get as good a grade, but that lets me know to go back in, add more detail versus my LinkedIn. That's not my LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, I went very in depth with a lot of my experiences, talking about who I am, making sure I have my resume up to par, things like that. So you get like different like ratings on that, but it lets you know like where you are, um, and how far you go. And if you do it really well, even Make School helps support putting your portfolio out there. They'll put it on their website so that people can come and click on it rather than it just kind of existing and it's solely up to you to put it out there. All the other ones, like GitHub, LinkedIn, your personal one, um, even your resume, it's kind of up to you to put out. But I will say the benefit about making a mixed school portfolio is once you get it to like top quality, it can be put on their actual website so that they can kind of take a little bit of the lifting off of your shoulders. Cool. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat anywhere. And um, so just looking on my end, I'm not seeing any more questions. So what I'm gonna do is we'll probably wrap up today. So I want to thank everyone who did show up. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this in the future, you can definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch so that you can know when we're having new shows. My show itself is at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard, 2 p.m. Pacific every Saturday. So we do different type of topics. So let me know, of course, what you got from this, what different things you've learned. If you have even yourself different tips and tricks that you want to share with me that I can maybe then share with other people, we build each other. Um, and you can find us on the Discord as well. The link to that should be in the chat as well. So you can follow us there. And then that way, of course, you can have even more direct relations with myself, with Make School, with other students, other people who aren't students who are just interested in coding or Make School as a whole as well too. So yes, let me know how you feel about this topic, about the show, and always reach out. Let me know like other things that you'd be interested in seeing on the show, other topics. If there's a specific technology that you maybe heard about and either want to see being used so that you can have a better way of getting into it, or even just something to talk about. So with that being said, I wish you all a good rest of your evening. Definitely come back to the Make School stream as Brian will be doing his tech topical later on today at 4 p.m. Pacific. So on that note, you'll have a good rest of your day. I hope you got a lot from this show today. Bye.